Well, hi, Jen, and welcome to the Rebuilding My Health Radio podcast. I'm so grateful to have you joining me today to talk about your really amazing health success story, your personal health success story.
Oh, thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here with you, Casey.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, I look forward to digging in. Let's just dive right into this. So, kind of take me back to when you essentially had your health crisis, what that looked like. You received a pretty scary diagnosis. Share with us what you were feeling and what you learned.
Yeah, well, let me just go back a little bit further because I've actually had two health crises. The first
Oh,
one happened in '08,
okay.
and that was what catapulted me on a deep healing journey and to start to learn different healing modalities and learn that everything on the outside isn't what drives what's on the inside. It's actually the opposite. So I just want to state that. And then the big health crisis of the big C, cancer, happened in 2015. And I was very fortunate because I had a lot of the tools under my belt at that point. If I had had that diagnosis in '08 when I had my other health crisis, I think I would have gone a completely different path. So having the tools and the wisdom and some of the experience underneath my belt was greatly beneficial. And the 2015 diagnosis, when I got it, when I look back, I was so overriding what my body was telling me. And the biggest thing was I had lymph nodes the size of golf balls, literally, I mean, almost as big as my fist down both sides of my neck. And I was working in a corporate job that, when I met with my doctor, he said, you have got to take time off. And my mindset was, I can't do that. I've got too much to do. And so that plays a lot right into our health crisis. And so that was a huge part of what I had to shift going through cancer, basically.
Mhm. Right, right. Yeah, yeah. That is such a mind shift, yeah, because that's kind of who you are. It's like shifting your identity if you have been a corporate person working long hours and kind of
Sitting under the beautiful fluorescent light.
right. Yes, exactly, exactly. You were in banking, right?
I was in banking, yeah, for 29 years. And I did a
Wow.
lot of travel. I really, when I look back at my banking career, I mean, I was traveling, every week for years on end. So I would be in one job where I would travel for 3 years, Monday through Thursday, or Monday through Friday sometimes. And then I would have a job where I was home for a year and then back on the road. So I was a
Mhm.
road warrior,
Yeah.
most of my corporate career.
Yeah, yeah, which is really really hard on the body. I just heard somebody recently talking about this. How hard that is to circadian rhythms. Eating and sleeping and all that. It's
Well, and
really
not only
tough.
that, but when you fly coast to coast, which is what I was doing, I live in North Carolina, I was flying
Mhm.
down to California, the radiation you're being exposed to on that flight right up in the
Mhm.
air is
Yeah.
the equivalent of smoking 100 packs of cigarettes a day. So
Wow.
one flight. Now I had no idea. And that's why a lot of pilots and a lot of flight attendants get cancer because it's constant exposure to radiation and the fuel, the jet fuel, and all the chemicals that
Mhm.
part of a plane and the bad air, all the things.
Right. Yeah. The last time I was on a plane, I was like, wow, I could really smell the jet fuel. There's like a certain point, I guess maybe when they're fueling up or something, where it's just so, so strong. And yeah, interesting. And I'm sure you were working really long hours and all that was really taking a toll. So you got a diagnosis of cancer in 2015 and kind of walk us through where you went from there, in terms of what were your next steps?
Yeah. So obviously I was scared to death. Cancer is scary as heck. And especially for me, it had metastasized. So I had it in multiple spots in my body. And so I did what anybody typically probably does is you go get some opinions. What's my path look like? What's my prognosis? And again, I live in North Carolina and we've got one of the, biggest and most profitable healthcare systems here. And so I got two opinions and both of those were very much following the standard of care. And I've learned so much about the standard of care since then. But it was surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. Those were my options. And at the time, I had four small kids. I had, kids all in school. And, both sets of doctors presented me with the fact that I would not be able to be around my kids. I would be, radioactive. I would be sick. So my immune system would be down. And that's when it became clear those were not my options. And so I really started going into meditation and just started asking for guidance on where do I go from here. And I was lucky enough to find a naturopath in New Mexico. And he had me read a book called Tripping Over the Truth. And that book changed my life. It changed my life because it goes through the history of the standard of care and how that came about. And I did decide to do surgery. That was clear that I had, had a lymph node that was about this big, the size of a bullet. And having it in my lymphatic system was very dangerous. And so I did decide to do surgery, and then I decided to do holistic treatment out in California, since I was flying out there for work anyway. And so I really understood that cancer is an immune system issue, and the treatments of the standard of care are further suppressing the immune system. So something in my brain kind of kicked in and said, wait a minute, I've got to start rebuilding my immune system and not focus on obliterating the cancer. And so I had to shift my mindset. And that's like a common theme in my healing journey, is really shifting my mindset from, how do I heal versus how do I kill the cancer? That's a completely different path. Completely different path. How do I build up my immune system? And, we hear a lot of these words like, oh, I'm a survivor and the fight for cancer, and you've got to fight for your life. And, when I look at my life and my experience, a lot of this was learning to love my body. Had nothing to do. It was like, stop fighting. I was fighting my way through my job every day. And it was about stopping the fight and really learning to listen and listen to my guidance and the wisdom that I had. And I truly believe we have magical bodies. I mean, our bodies are designed to be healthy and vibrant. And when something is out of balance, they won't be. And so it's finding that key of, where do you find what's out of balance and bring it back into balance? And then the body adjusts. And that's probably one of the biggest learnings through my crisis, if you will, was wow, instead of looking at it like my body failed me, it's like, oh, my body's helping me. My body's saying, wake up. Hello, there's a problem here. Let's get you better.
Right.
And so that was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a mind shift, really, like you said, to go from like, I'm fighting this thing, fighting cancer, to I'm going to support my body in healing the way it needs to heal, supporting your immune system, and maybe looking for more root causes and such.
Reducing stress, like
Yeah.
basic common things that we are all experiencing.
Right, exactly. I imagine that to go against the standard of care must have been difficult, maybe not as difficult for you as like those around you, because it sounds like you had a pretty strong conviction that this is what you needed to do, and that kind of gave you, kind of grounded you in some confidence. How about those around you, your friends and family?
Yeah, they were totally against my perspective. My husband, who supported me greatly, and my mother and my kids, they all wanted me to do what the doctors were telling me. And so that was difficult to work through. And I remember like it was yesterday, one night, my husband said, but honey, what if you die? And I said that I'm dying on my terms. And it was so clear in me. Yeah, it was so clear in me that this was my journey. And that's when he realized it was my journey. And he said, okay, if this is what you have to do, then I will be there every step of the way with you.
Wow.
And, there were so many gifts in the process, so many parts of healing that happened with my relationship, with my mother, with my kids, where they stood by me, even though they weren't sure about it, because I army crawled my way through it. I created my own path. They weren't sure, but they supported me, and I'm very fortunate for that.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that support meant everything for them to go, okay, we're trusting in this and trusting in you and kind of the intuition that you're getting. Right.
Yes.
So what were your next steps? You said you went to do holistic care in California. Kind of what did that consist of? What did it look like?
So I was doing high dose vitamin C and glutathione and DMSO, so a lot of IVs, hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I did something called EBOO, where they would literally take my blood out and oxygenate it and put it back in my body. Hyperthermia. So I was meeting at the clinic twice a week, Monday and Friday. I also radically changed my nutrition. So I always thought, I'm a healthy eater. I was vegetarian for many years. And I always ate a lot of fruits and vegetables. But I really went more keto. So I really eliminated carbs and sugar from my diet because we know now cancer feeds on sugar. And so, I really had a holistic change. But really, the biggest one was I started meditating. That was the beginning of my meditation journey because I was go, go, go. I still have that in me, type A. I'm wired that way. And so if I'm not intentional about taking time out to just sit with myself, then I'm missing a lot of that wisdom that's sitting there, ready for me to hear, to communicate, etc. So
And
it was about I started doing all those different treatments in September, and I completed by December, and then I had surgery in January. So I did all that stuff beforehand to get my body as healthy and my immune system as strong as possible.
interesting. Okay, so you were yeah, kind of holding on surgery to get your body ready. Interesting. Okay. Wow. Um, and did you, I mean, were things all like already looking better by the time you had surgery and
Yeah,
such, I
already
imagine?
better by the time I had surgery. And the interesting thing was I had an allopathic surgeon. And several times along the way, she was following standard of care. So, for example, I don't know if people know this, but when you have breast cancer, they want to put a titanium marker in so they can see, what changes happen. And so they put you under for that. That's a minor surgery. And I said, well, you're taking the breast tissue out. Why do you need to do that? And she said, oh, that's a great point. So I kind of challenged the standard of care along the way. And the biggest one was because I had it in my lymphatic system, the surgeon wanted to take the entire axillary lymph node, do a dissection there, which is about 32 lymph nodes. And so, again, I said, wait a minute, that's my garbage system. So if you take all that out, then how will I get toxic waste out of my body?
Mm-hmm.
And so she ended up doubling the length of the surgery and went in and felt every lymph node. And she said if it was bigger than a grain of rice, she would take it. If it wasn't, it would be fine. So she ended up taking 3 versus 32. The next 6 were fine. She checked, the ones closest to those. And afterwards she said, wow, Jennifer, that would have been an assault on your body. And yet the standard of care, it's almost like the consciousness goes out and it's a protocol that fits everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say
Right.
none of us are everybody.
Right. Right.
And so that was, another blessing that came out of it is I had 3 lymph nodes taken out and I've never had lymphedema or any issues since. And I know it's
Right.
because
Right. Right. Yeah, because they took such a conservative approach, but they would not have done that if you had not spoken up and asked for that. Yeah. um and I guess you were just heavily educating yourself along the way. I mean, you did not have this like health background or knowledge, really, did you?
I
Did
mean,
you
I learned a lot about nutrition. I learned a lot about energy and healing in the 4-year healing school that I went to.
Mhm.
So I had a foundation, but this is what, that experience is what really propelled me deep into research, into really understanding, how does cancer form in the body?
Mhm.
Why does it form? The joke my husband and I have had, he doesn't do this, but he could eat McDonald's every day and not get sick. I could eat
Mhm.
McDonald's twice and be sick.
Mhm.
Right. And so, our constitutions are all different and our healing
Mhm.
journeys are all different.
Yeah.
And so, it's really important. I think this notion of knowing ourselves, knowing our bodies.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was learning as much as I could learn. And I knew in that moment that it was important for me to be my own health advocate, that
Mhm.
I didn't have a cheerleader standing on the side saying, Jennifer, don't do this, do this. I had this standard of care model, and that was really it. So everything after that, when I stepped out of that model, everything after that was something that I had to research and find out about. And
Mhm.
I'm passionate about that because part of my mission now is to help others, with the research that I've learned and what I've learned through classes and everything since then, that, there are so many modalities out there that can support our bodies.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different paths to an outcome, to healing. I've certainly learned that over the last few years of all these interviews. Um, so yeah, you said you were doing IVs, hyperbaric stuff, the blood stuff, hypothermic, which I guess is like cold therapy.
No, it's hot therapy,
Oh,
hyperthermia.
hyperthermic hot therapy. Okay, interesting.
And I was
Okay.
doing saunas on my own. So I bought a sauna. I
Mhm.
started doing saunas.
Mhm. Wow. Okay. Yeah. And then nutrition, more keto. And was that kind of the metabolic approach to cancer? Was that Nasha Winters? Yeah. Yeah, which is so fascinating to me. So yeah, you changed your diet. Any other and meditation? Did you have a
Meditation is huge.
yeah, did you have a meditation practice before
Uh,
that?
Nothing regular. I would weave it in and out of it. I would do it for 2 weeks and say, oh, this is great. And then I would get busy and I wouldn't do it. And so
Mhm.
that is what prompted me into really committing to my practice.
Mhm. And I'm curious, like, what did your meditation practice look like when you were actively healing and then kind of going forward?
It was a lot about, so one of the things I've learned about manifesting
Mhm.
is that you see yourself in the future. And there's a great quote. I wish I knew who said it, but it says something like, see people as they are, and they either stay the same or they get worse. See them as they can be, and they get better. And so
Mm.
a big part of my meditation practice was sending love to my body, which sounds very strange, but just sending love, sending good energy, and then literally seeing myself in the future
Mhm.
and imagining what I was doing and imagining fully healthy and strong and my immune system strong and just pure vitality. And I would just have that image. And it's interesting because I'm a huge Dr. Joe Dispenza fan and I love his work. And in
Yeah.
2022, I went to 4 of his week-long meditation retreats. And
Wow.
that's exactly what he teaches. So I was doing it without knowing what I was doing.
Mm,
But he said,
interesting.
you've got to see your future self and you've got to see yourself as healthy versus what's wrong with me, I'm sick, and
Mhm.
tapping into that. You've got to go into the future of that vitality and put your energy there. And I
Yeah.
think about it, as an ex-banker, that what you put your money into, what you're investing into grows.
Mhm.
And it's the
Right.
same thing. What you put your energy into will grow. And so for me, continuing to see myself whole and healthy and vital and believing that, I think that was a huge part of the healing journey for me.
Mhm. Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, yeah, it has to be, from my experience, that healing has to be rooted in a foundation of knowing and believing that you can heal. First and foremost, that kind of has to be, underpinning everything.
Yeah. And I would say even a step beyond that is know that you are already healed,
Yeah.
right? So you're
Ooh,
tapping into that
right.
quantum field. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a possibility in the quantum field. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I used to tell myself, I'm healed and whole.
Mm-hmm. Right,
And it's
right.
done, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so kind of tell me, like, what was next after you did the 3 months of prep for the surgery, and then I'm sure you continued, various therapies and such. So then what were you seeing in your recovery in terms of your cancer markers and all that?
Yeah, then it was really about, strengthening again my immune system in my body.
Mhm.
I did do reconstruction surgery, so I had a lot of surgeries, a lot of issues there. I would do things differently today, but those were the choices I made at the time. And after that, it was really just continuing on my healing journey. For me, it became this path of unraveling. Again, I was the healthy eater. I exercised most of my life. And so when I got cancer, all of my colleagues at work were shocked. Like, how did Jenn Payeur get cancer? I was the one who was, landing in California, going to Whole Foods, getting a bunch of fruits and vegetables. I'd keep them in my hotel room, right? I wasn't eating dinner
Mhm.
super late and drinking a lot and all of that stuff. And so it was just, it was interesting. And I really wanted to understand, what got so out of balance in my life. And so
Mhm.
it really became a 3-year healing journey.
Mhm.
And I did finally leave my corporate job in 2017. So 2 years after. So I stayed in it and I still had high stress. I
Mhm.
was still traveling a lot. So that part of my life had not changed. And the reason I left in 2017 is my cancer marker started, going up a little bit.
Mhm.
And I
Interesting.
thought, okay, and it's very common for recurrence of cancer. And so I left, and for a year, I really had to unravel the attachment I had to the role that I had, right?
Mhm.
I was an executive in banking. I had to let that go. Oh, I'm a mom. I had to let that go. I had to really start to understand, who am I?
Mhm.
And what's underneath all of this. And so that began the process of that. And then I found the plant stem cells, or I say they found me, right at a time where, I was working with a naturopath at that time. And she said, I don't like what I'm seeing here with the
Mhm.
cancer markers.
Mhm.
They had kind of hit the high end of the range, and one of them was starting to move above it. And so it was like, okay, we got to consider treatment. And I was like, hold on a minute.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then literally a few days later, I was visiting a friend whose husband is a doctor, and he came out with this bottle. And he said, Jennifer, this has saved a lot of my patients' lives. And we were just having a conversation. And I said, oh, that's awesome. What is it? And he said, it's plant stem cells. And as soon as he said it, I had this visceral reaction that felt like I was struck by lightning. The best way to describe it. It was like this energetic, like I had goosebumps all over my body. And in that moment, I looked at him and I said, Dr. Michael, I need to know about these. Like I couldn't
Mhm.
find my voice. And I said, I don't know why, but I need to know about these.
Mhm.
And he had shared, this was in October, I guess. He had shared that there was a training coming up to learn about them. And I said, I have to go. Um, so long story short, I ended up in the training 3 months later. And on the last day of the training, the prior owner of the plant stem cell company said, and I'm going to be selling the company. And here came that same energetic, just
Yeah.
shook me to my core.
Wow.
So I got on the plane, I got to the airport, and I called my husband and I said, I think we're going to be buying a plant stem cell company. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. And he's like, all right, we'll talk about it when you get home. And I sat on the plane and I meditated. And so with the training was in Hawaii. So it was a good 5 hour, 6 hour flight. And I meditated almost the whole flight, just saying, what does this mean? And why? And I just got so much rich information around, it was time to bring these out to the world in a different way. And what was fascinating about that experience is that whole week long training, I'd had no experiential, there were no plant stem cells to even try. So I had never even, it was,
You hadn't
total
even
God.
tried. Wow.
I didn't even have one with me to even, try. And so when I got home, I kept meditating. I meditated for a month. And then I called the guy who had the company and I said, I'd like to work with you and just see. And I just kept seeing light, in my meditation, just light pouring into the body. And again, that's not scientific, right? This is that innate wisdom that we all hold. And so I worked with them for 2 months, and then I went and got blood work, and all my cancer markers were normal. And I was shocked. It's not at all, yeah, goosebumps saying it. It wasn't at all what I was, I didn't know what I was expecting. I didn't have an expectation, but I had no idea what would happen. And so they really, in 2 months' time, rebalanced whatever was out of balance in my body
Interesting.
at that
Wow,
time.
that's powerful because you had been working for a couple of years already doing all these other
Modality.
therapies, modalities, which were certainly helping, bringing your markers down. It's kind of going back and forth, it sounds like, with the stress and such. But that sounds like it was a huge needle mover for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a turning point.
Yeah. Wow. So so you knew, yeah, that's crazy. You knew you wanted to pursue this company without even having tried it. You just like had such a strong message on that, which is pretty crazy. But
Yeah, and that's one of the blessings and the gifts that has come out of this experience is my intuition.
mhm,
It's the ability to receive information has been spectacular.
mhm.
I call it the magic, right? I've been blessed with so much magic in my life. And I still to this day believe that cancer was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me because it changed my life. And I believe that if I didn't get cancer, I would have had something else because my life was so out of balance.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, yeah. Um, yes, I mean, to be able to see this as such a gift, is such an important perspective, and you have taken that gift and run with it, and now we're helping others, I don't know, countless others
Yes.
recover and be their healthiest selves. So so spectacular. So, and I've heard you called it the magic. I've heard you call it also the inner guru in different places. So how does
Mhm.
someone tap into that who maybe, doesn't feel in tune with that?
Yeah, I think it starts with learning to be still. So, we are human beings, not human doings. And yet we do. And when I look around, certainly in the corporate world, it's all about achievement. It's all about climbing the ladder. It's getting things done. And I think that's true in almost all industries of some sort, right? And so it takes a huge mindset shift, first of all. But the second thing is it takes slowing down.
Mhm.
And many times we don't give ourselves permission. I know, we move. It's interesting. My analogy is when you learn to drive, you're very conscious about it, right? You've got the 10 and 2, you're checking your mirror, you're paying attention to everything. And 6 months later, you drive and you go from here to there, and you don't even remember how you got there. So we take things that we learn and then they move into the subconscious or the unconscious, depending. And so, you know, I think that we just get so programmed to achieve, and that's how we've been rewarded as a society. And if we don't slow down and listen, we will miss all the signs. When I go back and I reflect back, all the signs were there. We all have this magic in our lives. But if we don't pay attention, we won't notice it, right? And
Yeah.
even the night that I got my full diagnosis, I remember standing on a patio in New Mexico after meeting with a naturopath, and a hummingbird came up to me. And I love hummingbirds, but they flit in and they flit out. They don't kind of hang around with people very long. And
Mhm.
this hummingbird was about, my arm's length apart. And it came in front of me, and I was on the phone telling my mother about my diagnosis. And I started crying. I said, "There's a hummingbird here." And it flitted away and it came back 2 more times. Well, hummingbirds are all about joy, they're about magic. And, if I hadn't paid attention and if I hadn't known that, and I learned that through my healing, I would have probably just brushed it off and said, "Oh, great, there was a hummingbird." But I knew in that moment I was going to be okay.
Mhm.
Knew it without a shadow of a doubt that
Wow.
no matter what else came my way, I was going to be okay. And
Mhm.
so it's taking those pauses, it's noticing, right? Even most of us that exercise, we go outside to be in nature, but we're running, or we're not paying attention to what's around us and the wonder and the beauty. And so that's how we tap into that inner guru, is we
Mhm.
slow down, we sit still. Meditation is a great way, but even standing outside, grounding, standing on the earth is a beautiful way to be able to receive those messages.
Mhm. Right,
But
right.
you can't
Yeah.
do it when you're busy.
Yeah.
That, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You've got it. I like how you put it. You've got to have those pauses for sure. Yeah. I started going on walks. I'm calling them sensory walks, where I like go, okay, I'm gonna like listen. What can I hear? And then what do I see? And what can I feel? Or what can I smell? Like, just because I'm always in my head, thinking about like the to-do list and the next things I need to do, or who I need to call, or whatever.
Yes. I love that sensory walk. That's exactly that. Yeah, that's how you tap into that.
It's hard though. And it's kind of like meditation. You have to keep bringing yourself back to
Yes.
it. For sure. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge for me and so many of us. Okay, so Jenn, tell us a little bit more about what plant stem cells are. I want to make sure people kind of understand what they are.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. The first documented research happened in the 1950s, but I believe this is an ancient modality. When I started doing my research on it, St. Hildegard of Bingen, who is known as really the first true naturopath, she was born in 1108.
Hmm.
And she used the buds of 8 trees in her healing. And so plant stem cells come from the new growth on the plant in the springtime. They mostly come from trees, some of them come from bushes, but that new growth contains healing properties that dissipate as the plant grows. And so you can only get them in the springtime. And those healing properties are known as juvenile phytohormones, which is a mouthful. But things like auxins, gilbillarins, cytokinins, abscisic acid, those are 4 of them. There are about 50 of them. And what they are known as is drainers. So they drain toxins from the cell, the tissue, and the organs. They strengthen the organs, and then they regenerate and rejuvenate the entire, basically, organism. So they bring vitality. When I look back at pictures of me in 2015, my eyes are dark. I'm very drawn. I look at least 10 years younger than I did back in 2015.
Wow.
I have white in my eyes. I have a light in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have vitality back. And that is all for sure coming from these plant stem cells. The other thing that they do is they clean up the extracellular matrix. And I think that's really important, because our extracellular matrix is our communication system in the body. And one of the interesting things about cancer and many autoimmune issues is the immune system is no longer detecting it, because the communication network is not working properly.
Okay.
So it brings that back online, and now the body can do what it's designed to do, which is to heal and thrive.
Okay. Super interesting. And I know you have plant stem cells, like all different types. You've got, kind of formulas and individual ones. And that it's based on what your challenges might be, whether it's like hormones or detox or liver, kidney, like, yeah. So that is fascinating. And
Yeah,
yeah.
most plants have an affinity for certain organs and
Mhm.
certain healings in the body. And this is where, so I have a love affair with plants. I started studying essential oils back in 2009. So I know a lot about plants. And
Mhm.
my friends call me the plant with fur, which cracks me up. But a plant like rosemary, that's most of us know what rosemary is. Often most of us grow it. It's a medicinal herb. And, rosemary is good for the skin. It's good for the hair. It's great for the liver. It's good for the memory. So a plant like rosemary can do a lot of different things in the body, but it really has an affinity for cleaning out the liver.
Mhm.
So plant stem cell form. And in the bottle, you have the buds of the trees or of the plant, of the bush. You have organic grape alcohol and organic glycerin. So it's one of the least processed modalities as well as plant remedies. And the other thing that it does is it basically cleans up your micro RNA and your DNA.
Mhm.
So that's what makes it unique. And unlike, homeopathic remedies have an energetic component, adult herbs have a physiological component. These have both.
Mhm.
So it's the only plant remedy that has this high vitality, energetic component, and it has the physiologic action on the body.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So fascinating. And they seem so gentle. Just, drops that you put in water. Even, children
Yep,
can
I've used
use
them with
them.
babies, with pets. I have a cat that's hard to get, with the organic grape alcohol. Cats don't
Mhm.
like strong smells, so I actually put it inside her ear.
Ah,
You can just put a drop on my finger and just rub it in the flap in her ear, and it's great. And there's actually a book on plant stem cells for animals.
wow.
So it is one of the most gentle. It does not create that Herxheimer reaction. So, considering they're drainers and they're pulling these toxins out, you don't
Mhm.
have that really strong reaction to them.
Interesting. Yeah, which is such an issue for so many in trying to
So, man.
detox. Yeah. Um, for sure. So, Jen, I'm kind of curious, any like quick little stories or anecdotes that come to mind for you that really stand out in, those who have also tried the plant stem cells?
Yeah, I mean, so my goddaughter, when she was first learning to eat food, she had an acute histamine reaction to whatever she was eating. One drop of the plant stem cells every 15 minutes. She had 3 drops total. She weighed about 30 pounds, completely wiped it out.
Wow.
So that's one of my favorite. I have pictures of it. Her mom sent me pictures before and after and called me into panic. And, so that's how quickly they work on acute conditions. And then in chronic conditions, depending on how long you've had something. But just, yeah, so many miraculous things that I've seen with them. Certainly, if I
Yeah.
showed you pictures of me before and after, you would be shocked. And I have a lot of those with others. Really, really good for people with diabetes, with, chronic conditions, metabolic conditions, because they are working on the cell in the body,
Mhm.
cleaning that up.
Right.
That's amazing. A lot of great respiratory plants as well.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, so interesting. Um, and then I know you kind of have practitioners who are skilled in this. So ideally, someone kind of works with a practitioner to identify what the best plant stem cells would be for them. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I do work mostly with practitioners, but we also have complexes, which are groupings of different plants in the same bottle, and those
Mhm.
are really consumer friendly. We have something called Breathe Easy.
Mhm.
So it's obviously for the respiratory system, calm stomach, obviously to help digestion. We've got Cleanse Your Gut for parasites. So we have about 40 of the complexes that are available to everybody. They're very, intuitive in how to use. And then a lot of single plants, about 110 single plants
Oh,
that do require a little bit more learning along the way to be able to use them or working with a practitioner.
mhm. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'm fascinated, completely fascinated by it, and had not heard about plant stem cells until kind of came across you a few months ago. So it's been fun to learn more about them.
Yeah, I think they're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so Jen, your maintenance routine now is kind of sounds like it's you've got a lot of pillars. I'm sure still meditation, low
Yes,
stress,
yes.
plant stem cells. What else?
Yeah, getting out. I try to get out and get some morning sun every day. I
Mhm.
think that's really important for our circadian rhythms. I work out with a trainer 2 days a week, and on
Right.
the non-trainer days, I play pickleball. I try to be active.
Mhm.
I will say, one of the things that has helped me, I take a pretty good maintenance dose of the plant stem cells. It's still a lot of what I utilize to keep my body healthy. All my arthritic, conditions, tendencies are all gone. I really, I tell my friends, I wake up and I feel like I'm 30 most days. I don't have aches and pains. I think we've been taught to believe that as you age, things are supposed to hurt. And, I have a healing practice. I work with a lot of people and they come in and they say, oh, I guess I'm just getting old. And I'm like, throw that away.
Right.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, we have more wear and tear in our bodies, but our bodies regenerate every 7 years. So we can do things, to continue to stay healthy and vibrant. And I think that's, our health is our greatest asset.
Yeah.
Without our health, we don't have anything.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
that's my number one focus. And it's, it's our physical health, of course, but also our mental health, our emotional health. And I look a lot at the energy. We often forget to look at our energetics as well.
Mhm. Right, right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, so Jen, what advice would you pass on to others? Maybe, yeah, something haven't shared yet that others who might be struggling with chronic or complex illness.
The main thing is that a complex illness is there to show you something. And typically it's something that's out of balance in your life. So get curious. It's an opportunity to be still, to get curious, to get in touch with our bodies. I think as a human race, we've kind of lost that. I grew up in the 60s and 70s and I was an uber athlete and I didn't feel my body. So, if I got kicked and knocked over, I would get back up and keep going. And that was like a good thing. It was like, oh yeah, I got another scar on my back. I was rewarded for that. And so I think we have lost the connection to ourselves, and we've lost our connection to nature. There's a great term that I share a lot. It's called nature deficit disorder. I learned about that in a book by a guy named Richard Louv called The Last Child in the Woods. And what he says is the new generations, they're not going outside to play. They are on technology. They're losing connection, and that connection to nature. As a kid, I used to lay in the grass and look up at the sky and the wonder. And I knew in that moment that life wasn't just about me. There was so much more there.
Mhm.
And we've lost that.
Yeah.
And so, my advice to people is, allow that wonder back in, allow the awe to come back into your life. Be curious, ask
Mhm.
questions. And if something goes awry, instead of judging it and getting upset and angry about it, look at it as an opportunity. Okay, wait a minute. Something is out of balance in my life. Let me start to find out what that might be. Be curious. And then you've got the tools to come back into balance.
Mhm. Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, kind of take those pauses and um, yeah, 'cause sometimes I feel like, yeah, especially with health, it's the approach is always feeling aggressive. We've got to aggressively, attack something or whatever you're doing. It feels like it needs to be aggressive, but I think there's not as much respect paid to that need to pause and how important that is.
Well, and even the language, right? Kill it off. We've got to attack this, right? And,
Mhm,
I think we're missing the mark on
mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fear in it. So
Mhm,
another piece of advice is, working through meditation or being still to move out of fear,
mhm. Yeah.
because our strength is in our trusting and in our knowing.
Mhm.
We're fearful, even our immune system is lowered.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So
Right.
coming back into, hey, I've got this, and trusting
Mhm,
yourself and
mhm,
reconnecting to those parts of us that we have disconnected from
mhm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
in the pause.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jen, I have learned so much from our conversation, and I know others will as well. It's a beautiful, breathtaking story. How can listeners find you and follow you and learn more about you and the plant stem cells?
So you can go to nature-provides.com. Don't forget the hyphen, because there is a company in the UK with the same name. And you can find out more about me there. I'm also writing a book this year, so I'm excited
Ooh.
about that, and doing a documentary. So there will be more to come on that as well. But Nature Provides, nature-provides.com, and a little bit of my story is on there as well. So people find us that way.
Great. Well, that's exciting. The book and the documentary.
I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, it's
Awesome.
been such an honor. I'm so grateful for meeting you, and thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. Well, when I heard your story, I knew that I wanted to go more in depth with you and bring your story forward. So thank you for sharing, and I really appreciate it. And take care.
All right. Thank you.